it's a simple statement of like, am I going to, pursue and commit my time to somebody else's dream, or am I going to do my own?
You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
One last thing before we get into today's episode. A lot of people ask how they can support the podcast. Well, I have a couple easy ways. The first way is just listen and subscribe. And another thing you can do is go follow the Roughnecks podcast on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube as well. If you get something out of today's show, then do me a favor. Share it with a friend. If you really want to go above and beyond to support the podcast, then head over to roughneckspodcast.com and get you some of that merch. I appreciate all of the support, but let's get into today's episode. It's crazy how when you kind of go and look at it, we've talked social media can be Dante, Dante.
Yeah, I love
Dante was
Dante.
on Q&A Friday number 2, 3. I don't remember which one, but he was on and we did an episode and we were talking about how social media can be a mental, like you can go through issues with it, trying to keep up with the Jones, like comparing your life. But it also can be a very big tool. And really, when you look at it, has been how has it been a tool for you? Because obviously it's helped you with a lot of things. Kind of go through what social media has done for you.
Social media, it's actually like really hard because I was mentioning like I could easily I got an opportunity to work in medical sales with my nursing background, and they were like, yeah, we can promise you 130K a year plus commissions. And I was like, fuck, that's a lot of money. Like I could easily do that and be great and be comfortable. But it felt like I was being comfortable, and I was like, I can't do that. It was just not in my heart to do so. Because a big thing with the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing right now with social media is to build a brand for my motivational speaking career. And the thing that always rings in my ear every time I'm like, you know what, I could easily go back and be comfortable or do this job or whatever. It's a simple statement of am I going to, pursue and commit my time to somebody else's dream, or am I going to do my own? And that's the thing that always rings in my ear when I think about that kind of stuff. And I'm like, it kind of scares me. So I'm like, I got to do what I'm passionate about. So it made me want to do social media. That's a big reason why I moved out here. And so social media, yeah, super, it can be mentally draining, especially when you're focusing on the numbers, the view count, the followers, how much money's coming in, whatever. But at the core of things, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, like you said, you should be doing what you're doing and be cool with it even if you weren't getting paid for it.
Exactly. Because that just goes to show, like you said, when you're talking about, they offered you $130,000, all this stuff. It's not always about the money. You have, like we've talked about earlier, you have to do what you want to do. You have to do things for yourself.
Yeah, it's like what does that lifestyle look like that you want to have for your family? Do you want to work 12 hours a day and then come home and having a half hour with your kid, and that be your relationship with your kid? Because you can make great money doing that, but you're gonna make a sacrifice for your family. And that's what I was talking about before that I didn't dive into much, which I'll run this and tie it back to social media. But our society gets so caught up in chasing fake rabbits, and what I mean by that is the money, the fame, the fortune, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, when people are at their deathbed at 95, 100 years old, they're not going to look back and be like, I wish I had the new iPhone, or this huge house, or this boat, or whatever. It's not going to be any of those types of things. It's going to be, man, I wish I spent more time with the people that I love and I care about. And so that's the lifestyle that I want. I want to maximize my time that I'm doing right now and invest it so that I can, have that time to spend with the friends and family that I want to pour into and create a legacy for them. Because like I said, I could, with social media, it can be a tool to spread, a message to millions of people. But at the same time, I'm so much more focused on, creating a great impact for my loved ones to carry that torch forward. And that's just my huge message. So really just like focusing on friends, family, your integrity and character as a person just really, drives that marker a little bit further in terms of like what's going to make you fulfilled at the end of the day. And a lot of people get caught up in like the cycle of like society, and it's like, dude, stop comparing yourself to other people and focusing on money, because it's not going to make you happy. It's a number, is it can be infinite. You can keep running and chasing after that number, but it's never going to make you fully fulfilled. And that's another thing that I found in my self-development journey is like I can, read all the books of my life, but like if it's not going to be like utilized or put into action, it's not going to make a difference. But at the same time, if I'm not fulfilled, and like I said, personal opinion, like I found myself like even feeling empty at the end of the day or missing something, but having faith and knowing that at the end of the day, that although we go through these battles like every day, whether depression or anxiety, etc., the war is already won, and we can have like full faith in knowing like, at the end of my life, no matter what happens, even if World War III goes off, I know where I'm going home to. So it's all cool at the end of the day. Why stress,
I've had friends and stuff who like they'll buy stuff off like merch and stuff off me, and like this was back when I hand delivered everything, but like I was like bringing them something and they'd be like, don't forget about me when you go famous. And I'm like, first off, like I go famous, we're gonna be talking like that. I don't expect to go famous. I hope I don't famous. Like I hope this
it would be cool to come along with,
Yes, like I want to change it. I hope this podcast becomes famous. I know that I come with that, but like I want the podcast to be like I don't want it to be me. Like I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be the podcast and like my guests. Because to be honest, my guests are the most important thing of this show. If I didn't have guests, I wouldn't have a show. I mean, I could have a show, but who wants to listen to me talk for an hour every day? But
hey,
like,
I mean, you got a lot of knowledge, so I wouldn't mind.
Well, I've got that knowledge through these guests. That's the thing.
That's true.
But like I look and they're like, don't forget about me when I'm famous. And I look at it like I remember looking at one buddy and being like, dude, I'm never gonna forget about you. Like that's it doesn't matter if I become the richest man on earth, like I'm never gonna forget about you. Now don't go asking me for money all this freaking time, but like you're still gonna be one of the people, because like I will always remember the people who supported this podcast like from day one. Like I will always remember those people. Like I will remember all of my guests. I'll remember everything, because like if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Yeah, it's literally part of its success. It's almost like it's in a way investors like, okay, you bought a percent of this royalty or you helped here, that you're gonna grow with the podcast. Like it's gonna grow with you, and it's like a really cool like way to see that. But wrapping it around to social media, like you're mentioning, it's been a phenomenal tool as far as like anything you ever want to do. Like social media will help you with that, because not only does it come with just like opportunity, there's fame and money and stuff like that with it, but at the same time you can grow your personal brand. Like you are getting paid for being you, which is cool as hell. Like, it's your personality that's like you're paying your bills, which is nuts, which is like crazy to think about. But it's been a huge tool of influence, because you have a platform where you can like literally change lives and be a cultivation of whatever you feel like is important to the world. You can spread that message to millions of people, and just with like a click of a play button. And it's like so crazy. Like this was never a thing like when we were in high school, and then like when TikTok popped off, or like any social media really people started like doing it for like a job. People were like, whatever, what is this? Same thing with like crypto, for example. You might touch on that. I'm not too much into the crypto space, more like an NFT kind of guy. But
I'm a very brief, like I'm in crypto, but I still have no clue what's going on. I just kind of research a little bit. I don't spend too much money on it because I'm like, but I also look at people who spent $10 on Bitcoin when it first came out, and I'm like, well,
that's exactly what I'm going to talk about. Literally exactly what you were just about to say. It's like, those people that hopped on super early, whether it be TikTok or YouTube, when that was like first starting, people that hop on first that are like, maybe I'll listen to Gary Vee and do Bitcoin in 2019 or whenever it started to pop off. People that hop on those trains early are like millionaires now. And it's like crazy to look at that and be like, you know what, the earlier you hop on, and you can be skeptical as long as you want, but like if it's you see it's working and you're like, I don't know, like you just hop on while you can, because the opportunity is going to pass you by. Same with like the algorithm with TikTok. When YouTube Shorts came out just a couple months ago, back in actually more than a couple months now, it's probably back like
Heck,
March
it's
or April.
like every social media has like reels or like they have the short videos, and TikTok changed the game
Yep.
for all social media.
Yeah, everything's like short form now. Nobody has attention spans. Unfortunately, nobody has attention spans to
As we
watch a
record hour after hour of podcast.
Yeah. No, this is something like would be great. Like if you're just like passing time, you literally just instead of like listening to the same song on repeat, which everybody does in the car, like I've been guilty of. I can grow and listen to something at
Well,
the same time.
like that's how I am. Like when I listen to podcasts, I listen like when I'm sitting on my computer, like working on the podcast. As long as I'm not editing audio, I'll be sitting here listening to a podcast instead of listening to music. Like don't get me wrong, like if I have a 5 minute drive or a 20 minute drive, whatever it is, I'm gonna throw on music. So because I don't want, I'm one of those people that I hate starting a podcast and
Yeah,
stopping it and then starting again
you
because
can't
like
like
I listen.
miss the concept.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
listen to like a lot of my podcasts, like I mean Joe Rogan, for example, 3 hour long episodes, like 2 hour
yeah.
episodes. Like I like to have, if I know I'm going to sit down for at least an hour,
Mhm.
I'm going to sit there and listen to a podcast because it's more beneficial than listening to music in a
Yeah.
way. Yes, like you're going to learn, but listening to music is also a very beneficial thing too because I think it sets like music can change your mood.
Mhm.
It's crazy how
Yeah.
I've been sitting around a fire with buddies or whatever on a summer night, and you're sitting there and you're listening to songs and they're happy songs, and then that one sad song comes on, and you're like, everybody just sits there and they're like, you think of that one girl or that one breakup or whatever it is, and you're like, damn. And then all of a sudden, like you got to go into some deep conversations or something, but like it's crazy how it can change your mood.
You just like look up from the fire and you're like, so anybody else feel this way?
Or nobody says a word because you guys are all just, then all of a sudden you're sitting there going, nah, well, none of us are talking, we're all feeling the same way.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how that works.
But going
What
back
we
to
just talking about?
social media is
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
we were talking to.
Yeah, social media. Oh, we were talking about like how everything's like short attention spans now. So it's kind of crazy to watch TikTok pop off, and once that went completely viral, you see all these other social medias like implementing it, like Reels. You got Shorts. You got Facebook even now doing it, and it's like, damn, this is the next big thing. So whenever that next thing comes out, you have to hop on that. If it's what you want to do, you have to do that. So like Shorts came out like March, April, for example. So when people started first putting their videos on, say there's like 100 people in there, it's not flooded. So the view count is going to be super high. You're gonna get millions of views like when you first start because there's nobody on there. But as people start to pour in, like hear about, oh, should they monetize for videos? Like since when? Like let me hop on that train. Once they hear that, everybody's going to be pouring in there, and it's gonna be so saturated. You post your first video, you may not even get a view.
Yep.
And so if you can hop on there earlier, you're gonna get millions of followers like right off the jump, which is so cool. So same thing. If you ever hear something like in the future where it's like, I don't know about this, and I'm just kind of skeptical about it, odds are if you keep hearing about it, it's gonna pop off. Like
Yeah, exactly.
it's literally just how it's gonna go. It's kind of interesting being in the West Coast because when I was in Ohio, I kind of like realized this, but everything like usually starts here and then works its way out east.
Mhm.
So like even if you, for example, if you're like, I've heard about this, like what are your guys' thoughts on there? Because the word comes from here for the most part and then like spreads its way east from what I've noticed. It's like if you have like even questions or anybody listening to podcasts, let's reach out or whatever. It's at Robby J Bobby. No, I'm just kidding. But
We'll get to your social media at the end of the episode.
but no, feel free to like reach out and be like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? I'll give you like my authentic opinion on it. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting to watch how that works.
So like I wanted to, like I look at social media, like we kind of been talking about how it's a tool too. Like I want to say I get probably 75% of my guests, probably more than that, for this podcast from social media. I message them, or like you come across people too, and like how it can be so beneficial for like self-improvement. You come across people all the time. Like you may come across like an Ed Milet on your feed, and then all of a sudden like he could change your whole life. It could be very beneficial. You got to watch and I think the big thing too is you got to watch how much time you spend on it. I
Yeah.
think that is a very thing, like something that people really need to look at. Because me personally, what I started doing, you know, everybody 90 freaking percent of people have an iPhone, and like
Mhm.
when you can set your phone to do not disturb, and I think
Yeah.
that's something that is very beneficial to do because how many times do we, for health reasons, like mental health reasons, if we sit there and scroll
for 2 hours every night on Instagram, TikTok, and let's be real, we've all done it. TikTok, you can get caught in that endless scroll where all of a sudden you're like, Jesus, an hour went by. What the hell happened? But like you have to control that your limit on there, because then people are like, oh, what's it matter? And it's like, are you where you want to be? And a lot of people, most people are going to answer a lot of times no to that. They're not where they want to be in life. And it's like, well, how much time do you spend every night scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through TikTok? You could be spending, that hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, even if it's 20 minutes, that 20 minutes reading a book, listening to a podcast, researching online about something that you want to do. You have to be very careful, but I think it is very beneficial. What would you say for you personally has been the most useful medium of, like, what has been the most useful one?
As far as social media goes?
Yeah, for you.
Oh, certainly TikTok. It's been like the easiest way to grow. I've been surrounded by like so many influencers that are TikTokers where I've just like been poured into from like the would you say just like just giving me ideas on like, the algorithm, how it works, like what works, what doesn't, hashtags, yada yada yada. Or I'm just like learned so much on like how to grow. And I literally started like seriously posting since October, and I've gotten like over 100,000 followers just in the past like 4 months. And it's been like crazy just because like, oh, I was like into it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start my own personal profile, because if anything, I don't want to do comedy skits forever. I want to do like motivational speaking. So moving into that era, I want to like have my own page for that as well. But in terms of social media, and I just want to touch on this from what you were saying, like even scrolling, you're creating content or you're consuming it. That's in all aspects of life. You're creating or consuming. You can do one or the other. You have the choice to do so. It's totally up to you. But I'm gonna choose to create, because that's gonna, help me in the long run. Yes, it's important to consume, but as long as it's personally beneficial to your goals. You're not gonna get like a lot out of, watching some prank. Like, it's gonna be funny, it's entertaining, but you're not gonna grow personally from that experience. So you have to be very intentional, like what you're like allowing to pour into your mind, because everything wants to grab our attention, whether it be advertisements, videos, creators. They want your attention because that's how they're making money. And everything, it's unfortunate, but everything's based on money for the most part in this industry. So speaking of which, I wanted to lead that into it. Has a lot to do with like your routine as well, because you can feed into a routine every night of literally watching 2 hours of TikTok. People literally have that routine. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna sit down and watch TikTok for 2 hours.
I have like friends who I know for a fact roughly at what time they go to bed, because I'll get TikTok. Like,
Yeah.
they'll send me TikToks, and I'm like, well, I know what such and such is doing. He's laying in bed. Like, it's crazy, but like it shows like that's people. That's what they do.
Yeah. And are you familiar with a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear?
I want to read it so bad. I've heard nothing but good things about it, but I need to read it ASAP.
I actually heard it from David Milet the first time, because his podcast is phenomenal too. And just like listening to him, like I can already tell you're doing a great job, but like the guy's phenomenal at what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's awesome. And I heard about the James Clear Atomic Habits. Like, one of the things was, even social media, like the way that your apps are organized on your phone, like whatever you look at first on your phone should be like your priority. So I literally have my phone, I'm using it for Zoom, but I was looking for it. But I literally have it like listed out, like at the top of my phone, I have the Bible app, and then I have, my calendar to make sure like, okay, I know exactly what I have to be doing throughout the day. And then I actually don't have any of my social medias on the front page at all, because if I have them on the front page, I'm literally going to hop in while I'm in bed and just like scroll for like 30 minutes and be like, oh shit, I might be late to something now. Who knows? But like, it's so crucial to like, even that micromanaging what you're being exposed to has so much crucial, is so crucial to like your efficiency in your day.
It is so crazy what you just said. Somebody who literally has based what they do off of social media. That's what you do. Like, that's how you grow. That's how you got to where you are in a way. But like, you don't even have your social media on your main page.
No,
like,
dude.
That goes to show something. Like, I'm sitting here looking at mine now going, and I'm looking at it, and I have one Instagram notification, one Snapchat notification, 5.
Yeah, dude.
And like, that's my homepage. But then like, we see that number, that little 2, that little 1,
Yes.
and we're like, oh, who is it? What is it? And we go click on, like, if you move those, because I moved TikTok, because I don't scroll as bad on it because in my like with Instagram and Twitter, like you start to I feel like get bored. TikTok, like
Yeah.
it doesn't get boring.
It's constant, bro.
So I moved TikTok actually to the last page of my phone,
Mm,
and I've noticed my like consumption go down, and
yeah.
I'm fine with it now. Like I have probably 27 notifications, but like that's why I hide it in the back so I don't see it and be like, oh, so and so sent me a message or sent me a video, so I'm gonna go look at it. But then you'll watch one video and it'll turn into 2, 3, 4, 5.
That little red number is so annoying to me. Like I can't stand it. Like I don't know how some people do it. Like I look at somebody's phone, for example, when they're showing me a video and they go to their homepage, and I'm like, bro, you have 319 emails. What?
The people like emails I let slide a little bit because I'm like, you know what, like a lot of it's probably junk mail, whatever. But then
Even getting the notification, you can turn that off. And you're like,
yes,
I'm not gonna let it bother me.
it's the people who have like 47 text messages that I'm like, what is wrong with you? What?
Yeah.
Why are you the way that you are?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And like being in social media, like I have fans like reach out to me, and like I was literally having this conversation like an hour ago because I had somebody call me, and they were like, "Yeah, like I'm getting a lot of messages. I don't know how to respond to it." But like I literally set a time where I'm like, "Okay, this hour, I'm literally just gonna respond." And sometimes I have a copy and paste if it's like, "Hey, I appreciate you, bro. Like you're changing the world." And it's like a little sentence. I'm like, "Dude, thank you so much. I really appreciate you and your support." Like copy it. I don't have time to like create like a custom message for
Yeah.
everybody. So, but if it's
Goes
like
back to the people pleasing thing. You can't please everybody and give them, you know, every because at the end of the day, yes, your fans are important, but you can't. There comes a point where you can't please them all.
yeah, no, don't get me wrong. If they have like a huge book typed out, no, they put time and effort into it, and they're like, "Hey, you changed my life." I'm like, dude, I'll take the time, like write something back
Yeah.
to them, like it's really heartfelt, and it's just like really show them like value and support and love. But yeah, it's like really interesting. But like you have to maximize your efficiency, like whatever you're spending your time. Like you just have to be crucial with like what you're spending your time on, because it's like you don't want to like sit and like waste your time and let it pass you by.
Biggest tips for time management, what would you say it is? Like if you had to give, you know, some bullet points for the biggest advice for time management, what do you got?
Whatever you're most afraid of or the most overbearing task, knock it out first. I'd say that's like the number one thing, because you're gonna keep pushing it off, But if you can just like take it and be like, you know what, I'm gonna implement this in the very beginning of my day, like just get it done. That The second tip I would give is, if you're busy on like procrastination and stuff like that, the hardest part is always getting the first word on the page. But once you can get that first word written, the rest of it just flows. You ever been in a position, like even in high school, where you're like writing an essay and you're like, I don't want to write this, but like once you get that first word, you just like start cruising.
Yeah. Once you get into that like first paragraph, and all of a sudden you look back and you're like, Jesus, I typed fucking 3 pages.
Yeah,
Like what happened? Like I didn't even have an idea at the beginning of this paper, and now I'm 3 pages in. Oh crap, I
yeah,
gotta cut it down because this is only a 1 page essay.
yeah. You're never gonna feel like, okay, I really feel like doing this now. Like it's like, I think you talked about this on one of your podcast episodes, but excuse me. It's more so like you're never gonna feel motivated to do something. It literally takes discipline. So if you can just like do the first action step, just if it's oh, I have to go to the gym and work out and do all this stuff. You look at it like a huge task, you're not gonna want to do it. But if you just be like, I don't have an option. I have to, just sprint down to my car. If you sprint down to your car, you're all of a sudden you're gonna feel like, damn, I've already made it this far. I might as well go to the gym.
Yeah.
So if you literally just take it in your mind and be like, you know what, just sprint to the car and just get the one action step, do it in little small increments instead of, this overbearing task, that you're going to save a lot of time, even debating, oh, should I go or should I not go, or this, that, or the other. It's like, just fucking send it.
Yeah, like I look at, I won't say I'm great at this. That's what I always try to point out. I point out my own flaws on this podcast. Like
Integrity, bro.
yeah, exactly. I haven't gone to the gym in a while, but like also like I look at, is it important? Yes, for like I think it is important to go to the gym, but like I also work outside for 15 hours a day, whatever. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I also put in a workout. Is an excuse partially. It kind of goes back and forth, but like my friends were like, "Why'd you get a gym membership?" Because I still live in Pataskala, and they're like, "Why'd you get a gym membership in Heath?" And I'm like, "Because I work in Heath." And I know when I get off work, like that's why I got it where it was. And I was like, because if I got off work, when I got off work, I knew if I went home, I wasn't going to the gym. So it like almost kind of forced me to like go get it done real quick and then you can go home. And it's an hour out of your day. But like the
Yeah.
whole thing kind of going off what you said, and we talked about it last episode, and I know you listened to it, but it's just you just have to start.
Yeah.
It goes with the discipline. It goes with if you want to build discipline, start. Start
Yeah.
something. You have to start. If you never start, you will never build, you never grow, you never know what will happen.
Yeah, and that it kind of like ties me into my third point of time management. Sorry again for the LA traffic; it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a first. That's a traffic. I don't know if it is a first. I think I heard I had a squad one time go by.
Yeah, that ties me into my third point as far as time management goes, but it has a lot to do with mindfulness. Literally being present in the moment of what you're doing at that given moment, because the present is exactly what it is. It's a gift. It's a present you're never going to get back. So being in the moment and being in that exact situation of what you're doing, it could be anything. You say you're doing this podcast, for example, and you're mentally focusing purely on this podcast and our conversation right here. We could get distracted by so many different things. So much is trying to grab our attention. You'd be like, oh, that email that I have to get to, or like I have to do this for work, or this relationship's really bothering me. But if I can like mentally try to just hone in on this conversation, I'm going to be providing so much more value and efficiency for the given situation at this given time in this moment, because I'm never going to get it back. And I kind of like use the metaphor. It's like, take your phone, for example. If you have 100 apps running in the background, like those people, that have like, many different apps.
Yeah, just they scroll for endless. I'm that person, to be honest.
Or like multiple tabs open. Like if you think about it, if you're doing that in your mind, same thing with your phone, your battery is depleting so much faster. And it's just a crazy metaphor to think about that.
I've never heard that metaphor, but damn, that's a good one.
Yeah, think about it, bro. If we're like exhausting all of our energy on multiple things at one given moment, we're going to be so tired and like exhausted. Like by the time it's like noon, for example, if you get up at like 6, so you're going to be so much more tired than you were if like you just took one task at a time and you're like, I'm just going to go all out here, crank it out, because I'm going to be so much faster and it's going to be so much more efficient if I just like focus on this one thing and get it done. And then never have to worry about it again, because if I half-ass it and I get like 25% of it done, I'm going to have to like do it later in the day and set up and prepare to do it or whatever, you know what I mean? It's just going to take so much more time and energy.
Today's episode is brought to you by roughneckspodcast.com. If you want to support the podcast, then head over to roughneckspodcast.com and grab you some of that Roughnecks merch. We have everything from t-shirts, long sleeves, sweatshirts, hats, and many more. Stay up to date on the website for new merch coming every couple months. You can place an order and it'll get sent directly to your door, and I don't even take any of the money from it. The money gets put right back into the podcast to continue to improve it for you. If you can't afford to buy some merch this time, then simply just subscribe to the newsletter, and it'll keep you up to date on all the new things that are coming. I appreciate all of the support you guys give. It doesn't go unnoticed. Let's get back to today's episode.
It's crazy. You talked about like our phone, you can get distracted very easily. That's why when I record podcasts, sometimes I won't even have my phone in the room, but a lot of times I would have to, because I usually hotspot from my phone, so that way I have better internet connection, but it's always face down. It's always face down, and it's not usually like within reach, because like I also don't want to be rude to my guest and sit here and like I could sit here and be on my phone, but like even if I'm hiding it down here, I don't want to be that guy, because then it takes away from the conversation, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can. I keep a notepad beside me and I write. Even when I write, I'm still looking at the screen trying to listen. And like, yes, I'm kind of multitasking in a way, even if that's possible. But like, if people saw my notepad, they're like, "What chicken scratch do you have on there?" And I'm like, "Listen, when I'm writing, I'm not looking. I look to start, and then I start writing, and I just try and go with it, and then I look down and try to get like it's just basically me writing notes for topics I want to bring up." But like, it's a big thing. Like your attention, we live in a world anymore where our attention span is very small. That's why these reels, this TikTok, all this stuff is very popular, because we want quick. Like that's how we want things to happen.
Yeah, like you just mentioned, it goes hand in hand with this. What exactly I'm going to say here. And I got this from an Ed Milet podcast like a week ago or something like that. And there was this lady on there talking about neuroscience and how multitasking. You said, oh, multitasking, if that's even possible. And I love that you said that because she proved that it's not possible. You can say, oh, I'm multitasking, and say,
Your
even for
mind
example,
only focuses on one thing at a time.
exactly. If I'm texting and driving, I'm not texting and driving. I'm texting or driving.
Yeah.
It's like
You may
you're
switch back
constantly.
and forth. You may be driving and then looking at your phone and text, but you're doing one or the other. It's not both. You can't do
Yeah.
it is impossible to multitask. And that's where I
Yeah.
don't like when people are like, "Oh, I'll multitask and I'll do it while I'm doing this." Like, no. Like then
No,
you're not putting
yeah.
all of your effort into it.
Yeah, and it's gonna turn out like shit afterwards. Like if you're like really multitasking. I call it like it's called task shifting.
Yeah.
And it's like you can do that, but the more you shift, the more it's gonna take time to shift there and there. So you might as well just stay on one lane, crank it out, and then go to the next one, crank it out. But
When I'm editing or when I'm doing stuff for the podcast, pretty much in general, I like to be alone. And
yeah,
I've been hanging out with friends or whatever, like just writing a script or editing. And I notice because then I catch myself all the time, and then I'm like, well, wait, where was I at? Because then that's the other thing. Like you kind of start to your task shifting. You shift to talking to your friend behind you, and then you turn back and you have to figure out where the heck you were even at.
yeah. Exactly. So might as well just crank it out and focus on it fully.
Exactly. So I want to one of the last things I think we're going to go into is let's talk about your story a little bit. We briefly mentioned it way back in the beginning of this episode, which
Sure.
was a long
Yeah.
time ago anymore, but kind of just tell us your story. Like you said you were homeless from what, 8th grade till when?
8th grade, and then I lived with friends all throughout high school.
Damn. So kind of just take us through whatever you want to share about it.
Sure. And forewarning, I'm an open book, so I will literally say anything about my life. If you ask, I'm an open book. I'm like super vulnerable, and I think that just a quick touch on that, being vulnerable creates relationships so much stronger, because if you can, take down your wall and be vulnerable and share something with yourself, it automatically lets the other person take down their wall, and there could be like a genuine relationship connected there, and entrusted. And granted, like you have to be careful like who you're trusting, but if you can give a small like glimpse of vulnerability, and it allows them to do the same thing. But people that aren't vulnerable with me, it's like hard for me to like break that barrier and like create a genuine relationship, because I'm like, okay, this person has a wall up, but I'm gonna try to express my vulnerability and allow them to like let their wall down, just to let them know that they can, because that's how you develop trust in the first place.
I
And
think
I just want to,
when you show your vulnerability, it makes other people you see it all the time. I know it's movies or whatever, but people who go to maybe an AA meeting or go to there's other meetings, just they've gone through things, but when somebody else shares their story, all of a sudden one, you don't feel like you're the only one, so then you're more open to share things or whatever. That's just like an example of kind of I feel like what you're talking about.
100%. It's like, say for example, I go to church and like the person's like, oh hey, like how's it going, like, oh your seat's right over here, and it's like super quick, and I'm just like, and now they're talking about like, oh how's your week. It's like you don't really care, but like if somebody is like literally like, oh how are you doing, and like I talk about my day, and they're like, hey man, I get it, I might not have experienced that, but like here's my situation, I totally like understand where you're coming from, and although it may be different for me, like all that matters at the end of the day is like just know that you have somebody there for you. And it's like, wow, like person's like being, first of all, being vulnerable, second of all, they're not saying like they know my exact situation, because everybody's situation is different, and then thirdly, they're just saying like, okay, I can come to them, and if they follow through with that word and say and check up on me if I'm struggling, like that's a real person, in my opinion. Like that just really makes a difference. But yeah, we can hop into my story.
Let's get into it.
But, yeah. So
Sorry to interrupt one more time. This is officially, I think, the longest episode I've ever recorded. So I give you props, because this has been the easiest conversation I think I've ever had on a podcast as well.
Cole Nixon, you know my last name, right?
Speaks.
That's what I do.
So that's what everybody called you in high school. Nobody called you
Yes,
Robert
sir.
or Robbie. Everybody said Speaks.
Yeah, Speaks, dude. I remember the story. It was Solomon Broomfield. You remember him?
Yeah.
Bro. I remember we were like helping out at the elementary school right by the railroad tracks. I don't know if you remember that.
Which one's
We were
that?
like helping move desks and furniture and stuff
Ah,
like that,
yeah, I remember. Yeah.
dude. And I don't know if you remember, but I was known as like this. I wasn't like the biggest guy, but I was like this like the strong
Yes.
kid. And like I remember I was like pushing this like really heavy like couch up into this truck, and Solomon Brookfield he just let go and was like, "Speak, let's go!" Like that's where it came from, and like everybody was like, "That sounded great. We're just gonna start calling him that."
It's crazy
So,
how sports like change your name, your nick, or like that's where your nicknames come from. I feel like a lot of times is sports because like I always had a bunch of different things, but a lot of times it's your last name, and it's crazy how it works.
yeah, it is crazy, but yeah, that's kind of where it came from. But yeah, talk about my story a little bit. So I grew up in the heart of Columbus, just born and raised there, Short North area, right across the street from like the Crew Stadium, if you know where that is.
Yep.
So grew up right there, and to be honest with you, I'm very vulnerable. I'd start off with this, and you're cool with me like getting deep as possible,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Cool. All right, I want to lead off like one little thing, just because I want to protect identities and stuff like that. But to give you basically the gist of it, born into a family of, I had a half older brother. He's 6 years older than me. I had a brother 2 years older than me, and a sister 3 years younger than me. And then both our parents were together at the time that I was born. Grew up in the Short North, and it was kind of funny because I always say this: I was like raised in the hood by country folk, and so I got that nice diverse mix. And so it's crazy, as I was the only white kid in my class for like 6 or 7 years, and so like I'd always get nicknames like "Yo, Whitey Moss, you can catch a football, like what's up?" And so I just had to like learn to be accustomed to the situation of wherever I was going, and I was and when my mom was pregnant with me, she worked at the Shell gas station right across the street from the Crew Stadium, and this woman came in and was like, "Hey, do you like need a babysitter or anything?" And my life, I didn't even know it at that point, but my life changed just like that. And like God had his hands on me from that point forward, because I consider those people that asked for, my mom, if they wanted a babysitter, those are my momo and papa, and I consider them like my mom and father figure. Like those people like cultivated more of a difference in my life than I think anybody ever could, in my life. So that situation in itself is like crucial for me, because at home things were like really abusive, but physically, and like I said, vulnerable, even sexually at some extent. So being in that situation, I always had a number to dial. It's not activated anymore, but it's 614-262-4512. And like I always remembered it by heart, and I'd be like, you know what, I'm just gonna go to mama and papa's, like this is my saving grace. And that was like my spot of like my sanctuary, if you will, of like when things would get like heated up at home, like dad be going crazy. um Shout out dad, still love him, but he made times hard sometimes. It's just the way it was. But going through that situation, I always had somewhere, like a safe place. And so going through that situation was like difficult, but at the same time gave me a lot of perspective. Like now looking back, like wow, like I am so genuinely happy, like not to be in a situation of where I was raised. And we were like super poor, like little things like, oh, what are we doing like as a family today? Oh, we're just gonna sit inside and do nothing because we can't afford it. It's like, oh great, that's awesome. Ramen noodles again, wonderful. Stuck out in college too.
I was gonna say we all learned how to live off of them in college.
Yeah, it was cool. But yeah, it just gives you perspective really. But going through that, yeah, it was like whatever, but it was normal to me. It's what I knew. And then third grade hit, and my mom had passed away, and that was like my mother figure. So that was like probably one of the toughest times of my life. Just trying to understand death in general. But now, like looking back, I'm like, I think of it this way. It's like it's never a goodbye, but it's see you later. And it's like I did a lot of what I did like in high school and like to start of college to like in a way make her proud. And just like looking back, it like it really like encouraged me to be like, you know what? I have to pay the love that she gave me forward to other people. So if I can like literally just provide love, value, and just be there for people, I'm gonna make this world a better place, just like she did for me. So that's kind of like where that cultivated from. And then I had my best friend Anthony actually just visited me in LA. He was like always coming over every day, like, hey, like, are you good? Are you good? Are you good? And I'd be like, I'd tell my mom like I can't like see anybody right now. It's in a dark place. And so just his persistency, he eventually got me out of that dark place, and he showed me what like true friendship really was. And even to this day, he's like my best friend. And it's like such a beautiful thing because, fifth grade came around, and during the recession, like 2007, 2008, like his mom lost his job, and they had to, all of a sudden move. I went over to their house and it was like empty, bro. And like he's like disappeared, and I had like no goodbye, no nothing. So it's like boom. And that was like almost like a second death to me. It was like really hard. But moving forward, I'm not gonna lie, not a lot of good stuff happened in my childhood. I was like talking about like negatives, but it all gives me perspective now, which is like really cool. But moving forward, seventh grade came around. My mom like busted into our bedrooms and was like, "Hey, pack your shit. Like we're leaving. Like I can't deal with your dad anymore. We got to go." So we like all packed up our bags, and I was calling my friends at the time, like, "Hey, like I don't know if I'm gonna see you again, but we're moving." We met up to Newark, Ohio. And she met up with her high school sweetheart, and that's another situation I won't go into. But we like basically like, moved like suddenly, and like my dad was like leaving me voicemails, like, or like all of us really like, "Oh, if we ever find you, we're like this and this and this." So we got like really dark times right there, and it got to the point where like we got a phone call, and we were like, and they were like, "Yeah, your dad's in the emergency room. Like we don't know if he's gonna make it. We don't know what happened, but he tried to self-inflict and that kind of stuff." So that was like really hard at the time for me to deal with, and like after he got like anger management and stuff like that. But I went to like 3-4 different middle schools throughout that time, and um at one point my mom like was single again, and she was like moving another place, and this is the time where I was like, "You know what, mom, you can do you, but I have to make this decision for myself." And I had this opportunity through wrestling, and it was actually funny because I dated a girl like freshman year, and you probably know her, but I'm not going to name names. And I
We'll talk
lived
about
with
it
her.
after.
What's that?
I said, "Oh wait, why can I not remember who it is?" We'll talk about it after, but I
Yeah.
cannot remember. Who it is.
But I ended up like moving in with her, and I was like, "Mom, I'm not going to like, keep moving around. I got to make a decision for myself." So I like moved out, and through that individual like in between process, like eighth grade and freshman year, like I was living at like, there was at one point I was like at a park where there's like tunnels you used to crawl in as a kid, like at the parks.
Mhm.
I'd like sleep in those to be like the warmest place and like driest place I can find to sleep sometimes. And that like my friend's trampoline, slept on that a few times, garage, yeah, like all this kind of stuff. And I just like did my own thing. But like my girlfriend's family at the time, they were like, "Hey, like you can't be doing this. So you gotta like have a home, like an establishment." I was like, "Sure, like if you want to take me in, like I'm not asking you to, but I'd be really like thankful and appreciative." So I ended up doing that. And yeah, I could like talk about a lot of stuff, but ended up hopping around from 5 different families throughout high school. And just to thank some of them, it's gonna be like Nick Daniels, appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much. Like Andrew Triona, Jack May, yeah, like these people like really like cultivated a difference for me, and like really just like believed in me. And especially their parents like believed in me and saw like that I was meant for more than my circumstances given me. And especially Michael and Margaret Saldivar, like they were like the cultivation and the turning point in my life, where they took me as the broken kid that I was, and like struggling, and every situation that I had gone through at that point. And they were like, "You have a light in you that can really make a difference in this world, and we want to provide you with like what love is supposed to look like, so you can like have a family for yourself, and create a future that you want for yourself, but also with the guidance of God at the center of it." And that like really shifted my focus, and they taught me how to like be a leader, and be spiritual, and be just look at life differently, and say, this didn't happen to you, it happened for you. And I was like, wow. So that's like the biggest difference. And then they taught me how to like apply for scholarships, and that was like the biggest difference. And I ended up getting a full ride to Kent State University for the nursing program. And then I think that's when things like really started taking off. I was like completely on my own at that point, and I could like, what my decisions were like, making a life for myself. I didn't have to rely on anybody, or like sleep in my car anymore at that point, because the summer in between, I was working at Donato's on Broad Street, and I was sleeping in my car, like just working like on a daily basis, like trying to get the money up, because I didn't know I was getting that scholarship for nursing until my first semester. So I had to like just come up with like a couple thousand left aside from the Pell Grant to pay for it. But after that, it's like kind of when things got started hitting off, and then we talked about my college experience moving forward. But yeah, it's like a lot about my life story from that point.
What's crazy, all that stuff that you just said, one of the big things that I want to point out is that you talked about you thank people. Gratitude is a very important thing. We've already talked about it, where you have to think, like, I think it is very important. It's better late than never. You have to thank the people that helped you get to where you are, because you said, like, and like you said, you were this broken kid, and like all these people helped you, but still you may not have been that then, but I like everything I remember of you, even now, always smiling, always happy.
Yeah.
It just puts a perspective on life. You never know what somebody's going through. You never know their situation. You never know what's going on. So it is important to be like positive towards everybody, because you
Yeah.
never know what you're going to come across. And it's just crazy. Like I give you props, because like we have a bad day and we feel down on ourselves. Like a lot of people, like we had the minor inconvenience and like our whole day goes to shit.
Mhm.
You were living in your car, like living on playground, whatever, sleeping on trampolines
And I was showing up to practice. You wouldn't even know
every
it,
single day. Yeah, no one,
bro.
like it's crazy that you look at it like I give you so much props, and you are truly, now like I've already seen it before, but now I truly understand like how you have changed lives, and like you see how inspirational you are.
Yeah. And that's like one of the craziest things in my mind is that like I went from, not having a home like in middle school, like going into high school, like living at the Shamrock at one point. That's tough.
Oh, it's gone now. You know that?
Yeah, I got bulldozed, thank God. But it was crazy. And it was kind of like, it was weird. It was like almost like, what would you say? It's like, I don't know, like not a metaphor, but like just like something that just really drove home the fact that like, wow, like we came a long way. Just like watching that Shamrock like not be there anymore, I was like, I can like let that go. It's like it was like a lot of stuff like that stuff happened there, and I was like, man, that's crazy. It's like it doesn't even matter really.
This
It's just gone.
this leads me very well into like one of my final questions. I'm sure you know the questions coming. You've listened to the episodes, but if you could go back in time and tell your 16-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
I actually I didn't expect this question, but I will more than happily take it.
I ask all of my guests this question.
Yeah. 16 years old. What was Rob doing? Man, just hopping around. It'd be like, have faith in the process. You can be going through anything in life, but every little small detail, everything that you're going through, whether it be good things or bad things, is going to be, so crucial in your understanding of where you're at right now. Or yeah, even the people listening to this podcast, take an example that you've gone through something either like really great in your life or something like really traumatic in your life, and say, what have I learned from this that has made me who I am today? And just really look at it at an optimistic viewpoint and say, what, I can use this to encourage and inspire other people, and not only just not thinking of it as like, oh, what was me, this happened to me, but say, what, if this did happen to me, how can I prevent this from happening to anybody else? You see it all the time in like movies. Like the only difference they say between like a hero and a villain is like, what, the villain's like, oh, I have to like get vengeance for this, but the hero is like, what, I'm not. They have the same exact backgrounds, whatever it is. Both their parents died, and one's gonna say, what, I need vengeance for my parents, and the other person's gonna say, what, I'm not gonna let this happen to anybody else ever. And so it's all about how you look at it. And that's why one of my favorite words, and one of the first comments you ever commented on my social media, was my video on perspective. And it's like, you have the choice to choose how you want to look at it. So do with it what you may, but just make sure you're making the most of it.
You fit the slogan of this podcast 100%. And I don't know if you know exactly what it is, but the slogan of this podcast, I don't even have any of it on. Usually I do. It's grab the bull by the horns. And the whole idea behind this, some people give me crap for it because it doesn't quite make sense, but the whole idea behind this is life is hard and it's gonna knock us down.
Yeah.
We are gonna get knocked down. And I look at so we are life is the bull, like the bull, and we're the bull rider. We're the one that's riding our life. But it's gonna buck us off. We're gonna get knocked down. It's gonna happen. You can't you basically have two choices. You can lay there and let that bull of life walk all over you, or you can get up and grab the bull by the horns. Some people are like, you just get back on. All right, whatever. You understand my slogan. You can get up and grab the bull by the horns and take control of your life. You are the only person, too, that can do it. You can have guidance from others, but it's all depends on you.
Yeah. And that's actually perfect. And it's so crazy that you say that, because I've always said, like, my quote, like in my bio, my Instagram, all throughout high school and all throughout college, I changed it recently, but it was like, I don't know it verbatim, but it was like, everybody's got a story. Who's writing yours?
Mhm.
Like, are you gonna let like other people, write your story for you? Are you gonna accept, this person's opinion, this person, what they think you should do? Oh, this happened to you. Oh, I'm just gonna let it happen and like whatever. But if you can like pick up the pen for yourself and say, you know what, I'm gonna start writing this book right now. You literally have the book of your life. You have the pen for it. You can write on the papers what you want. So do with it what you will.
Sometimes I like to say is quit being chapters in everybody else's book and start writing your own chapter.
Amen, brother. Come on now.
But I think this leads us very well into the best segment of the podcast, which is Motivation Monday. Motivation Monday is the point in the episode where I allow the guests to give the Roughnecks listeners a little inspirational bump to set the tone for their week as they listen on Monday morning. So what you got for Motivation Monday?
Motivational Monday. Let's get to it. All right, guys. So for this week's Motivation Monday, I just want you guys to take this day and this week and make the most of it. Literally go off on your own, find out what you want to do, what you're passionate for. Literally don't listen to anything in the world, anybody outside. From their perspective, literally find out what you're passionate about, what you want to do for the rest of your life, or even at this given moment, and say, you know what, I want my life to look like this. What does it look like to do that every single day in small increments? So say if you want to start working out, for example, it's an example I use, but say if that's one of your examples, oh, I want to be a bodybuilder or be in this physique competition, taking it in small increments and say, you know what, I'm going to make do the research, do the coaching that it's going to take to get there in small increments. So just starting by going to the gym, 30 minutes a day, getting up, doing that. So whatever that looks like for you and your goals, like I said, 3 to 4 goals is perfect. So if you can take that and break it down into your schedule, literally put it into your schedule on your phone calendar, your Google calendar, whatever it is, like put it in there and stay disciplined to what you have in your calendar. Like if it's there, be integral with yourself and respect yourself enough to say, you know what, I'm going to do that, and not look back and be like, oh, I wish I would have done that. Literally take it and do it, because the only person you're letting down is yourself. So if you want to continue to, have the mindset of like, oh, like I wish I would have done this or that or the other and let yourself down, that's fine. But the only person you have to, have an excuse for that is yourself. It's the only person you have to blame. So just be proud of yourself. Follow through with what you're going to say you're going to do. Be integrous, which is the key word. Be integrous with what you say you're going to do, and be like Nike and just do it.
Oh, what I love, like I loved you said, you don't want to live in like, oh, I wish I'd have done this. I wish that you don't want. I call that what if land. We don't want to live in what if land. What if land is a very scary place when you really think about it. We don't want to. I don't want to look back at life and say, what if I'd have done this? Now it'll probably still happen. No matter what you do, you're gonna have it, and that's okay, to a degree. But you don't want to sit there and went, man, like we all have those decisions in our life that we're like, what if I'd have done this instead of just sitting in my comfort zone. And one of the other things that I like to use, like you said, put those goals in your phone. You put what is it, 3 to 4 goals that you say to set? Put them on your phone. It is very important to have those goals somewhere that you see them every single day. I don't care if you write it on a Post-it note and put it on your alarm clock, put it on your door when you walk out the door in the morning, that like you see it. You want to make sure that it's something, because you, even if you know it's, if it's in a spot where you don't look every day, you're gonna forget about some of those goals.
Yeah. And like very similar to what I was saying, like, oh, the first thing is on your home screen. Like that's the first thing you're gonna do in the morning.
Yup.
Dude, think about this.
Put it as
What is
your
that?
screensaver.
Think about this. What is at the center of everybody's living room in their house?
A table. You like, right? I don't know. Where it
No,
depends.
and what's across the couch?
Across the couch, usually a TV.
A TV. So think about it, bro. Like everybody's centered and accustomed to watching like TV. Everybody. So like if you could literally just like, oh, I want to grow in like reading, just place books around your house, like anywhere, like by the toilet, by the couch, like just have it readily accessible if that's like what you want to do to grow. Oh, if you want to work out more, literally just get some dumbbells, like put them like by your door, like by your bedroom before you like leave to like use the restroom. Just crank out some curls, do some push-ups, whatever. Like
Every little thing counts. Every
you
single little thing counts.
you set up your life. And like I always say this to my friend because he has a terribly messy room. I'm not going to mention his name, but um, but like I always say, you can read somebody's mental thoughts just by like looking at their room. And like, if it's like completely disorganized, you can tell that that person is like probably going through like something or like really having things disorganized mentally. But, it's like there's a book called like Make Your Bed, I think, and I haven't read it, but I
Yeah.
got the concept. Yeah, and it's like, dude, you make your bed and you're already off to a successful day because you're successful, you're organized, you're just killing it. So if you can do that and like think of little things like that throughout the day that you can just prepare yourself to make yourself successful. That's the number one thing I look for in terms of relationships too. If I find a girl that has just a massive amount of self-respect to know that like not only she's taking care of her body, her mental wellness, but and her finances, but just like in general, things that she's going to be like, okay, I did this so that I can, I respect myself so much that I'm going to do this to prepare my future for this. And it's like, it's so attractive to me because like, no matter what happens, I know that like, I can have faith in that individual that like, they're going to do the right thing and like, they're going to fulfill what they say they're going to do. And it's like, that's it, bro. That's it.
It's crazy. I look at, you talked about like when you have a messy room, you're probably going. My times, I look at when I'm finally get myself organized, like I'm to the point where I pick up like my room and I make my bed every day. Like you start to realize you make a change in yourself when like that is I never thought of it that way, but you can look at someone's room and tell if they were an organized person, if they, or they're pretty much kind of lost in a way. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Is there any like last tips or topics you wanted to chat on? Or are we gonna leave it on making the bed?
I think we're gonna leave it on making the bed. And I think with that, that's actually a wrap on episode 85. 85 episodes of the Roughnecks podcast. Thanks, Speaks, for coming on. Where can people go follow you on social media? They have to, after everything that we talked about, they got to know where the social media is at.
All social medias round back to Robby J Bobby. It's ROBBY JBOBBY.
You will also find it in the details of the episode. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Couple last things for everybody listening. Don't forget to enter in the March Madness Challenge, spring merch drop, Friday Beers episode this Friday. I'm actually about to go record it after this episode, I believe. And then we also have Q&A Friday coming up. Episode 90 is Q&A Friday number 4 or 5. I can't keep everything straight half the time, but I'm going to put you on the spot. I like to ask all of my guests to give a question for Q&A Friday. So what Q&A Friday is, it's me and a guest. We'll sit. You might actually have to be a guest on Q&A Friday after today, but it's me and a guest. We'll sit here and answer questions about anything and everything from the fans. So any question that you can think of for Q&A Friday, it will get answered on episode 90.
So it's me asking the audience question?
You're asking me a question essentially, but it's going to be me and a guest. We're going to both answer it.
Okay.
It could be questions like, what is your favorite color? And then we've also have questions like, if you had no fear and failure wasn't an option, what would you do? Like, it could be a deep question, a very simple question.
Okay.
Whatever.
This is my question that's been most recently pretty primary in like a lot of my relationships. So I've been asking people a lot if money, location, and time were not an option along with education. If those were not necessary right now, what would you be doing right now? Like if that, if you had, if money, time, education, and location were not necessary to do what your dream would be, what would that be, and what would that look like, and why?
Oh, I already know my answer to that, but I'm not going to answer it. You got to tune in to episode 90 to find that answer. But you guys know the deal. Life is hard and it's going to knock you down just like a bull does to a bull rider. Don't let the bull of life walk all over you. Get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life. Roughnecks, out.
Thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of the Roughnecks podcast. If you like today's episode, then be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with a friend if you got some value from it. Head over to social media and follow the Roughnecks podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Don't forget to get you some of that merch by heading over to roughneckspodcast.com and subscribe to the newsletter while you're there. See y'all next week. Roughnecks, out.